Good morning. My name is Renee House, and I'd like to welcome you all to the official launch of the Oregon Open Learning Hub. Thank you for joining us today. For today's event, we are using GoToWebinar, so all participants are muted due to the volume of people that are virtually attending. If you have any questions you'd like to ask during the webinar, please use the questions feature. We'll try to address questions during the webinar as well as at the end. This event will be recorded and shared. Now we'll hear from Jamie.
Great, thank you. Hello, my name is Jamie Rummage, and we would like to open today with a land acknowledgement. For those of you who may be unfamiliar, land acknowledgements are an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those whose territories we all reside on. It is a way of honoring the indigenous people who have been and currently living and working on this land since time immemorial. We would like to acknowledge the many tribes and bands who call Oregon their ancestral territory. We would like to honor the ongoing relationships between the land, plants, animals, and people indigenous to this place we now call Oregon. We recognize the continued sovereignty of the 9 federally recognized tribes who have ties to this place and thank them for continuously teaching us how we might all be here together. Thank you. Now I'll hand it over to Andy.
Thank you, Jamie. My name is Andy Byerly, and on behalf of the Oregon Department of Education, I would also like to welcome each and every one of you who are joining us from across the great state of Oregon. It was fun to see so many names and places scroll by on the screen. It seems like we've got every corner of the state represented here today. We are so excited to launch a platform that is driven by teachers for teachers in ways that increase access to high quality resources for learners and empower educators to reimagine collaboration. Our primary intention today is to introduce you to Oregon Open Learning and the power of open educational resources. We'll visit the touchstones of equity, empowerment, and efficacy throughout our time together, and we hope you leave excited and ready to jump in. We also hope you engage you multiple times so you have a chance to experience the hub. You'll find it helpful to have a mobile device or browser window open as we continue learning together. Throughout the morning, you will hear from many of our Oregon Open Learning core team members. And this small but mighty bunch represents specialists from across different teams at ODE who joined forces at the outset of distance learning for all to support the Oregon education community during emergency school closure and into the next year. And we realized this morning that we have not once met face-to-face. All of our work has been done virtually, as I'm sure yours has as well. It's been a privilege to work with and learn from these amazing colleagues, and I want to thank them all. As you dive into the hub, please feel free to reach out to us for support by using the email address on the screen. This email address will appear at the end of the webinar as well. As mentioned earlier, this project began in mid-March in response to distance learning for all. ODE's guidance emphasized care, connection, and continuity of learning in that order, and our foundational principles were to ensure the safety and wellness of students, to cultivate connection and relationship with each other and our students, to center our work in equity and efficacy, and where possible, to think outside the box and innovate. As you will learn today, Oregon Open Learning stands on these same foundations, particularly in terms of driving forward our statewide equity work by improving access to high-quality learning resources for students and by empowering collaboration among educators and partners across Oregon. In this way, Oregon Open Learning is more than a platform for distance learning. It's a major step forward for Oregon educators and students, no matter what school looks like in September. Recently, our team discussed an article entitled, "What if we don't return to school as usual?" published by the National Equity Project. And the author makes the case that the current COVID-19 pandemic is just the disturbance that our current inequitable education system needs to bring about systemic change. Each of us must courageously confront the question, Are we willing to use this opportunity to create the kind of educational system we want? The team at the National Equity Project came up with a few responses to the starter, what if we? What if we prioritize student learning over seat time? What if we invest in repurposing reactive leadership with strategic equity leadership? What if we organize our curriculum around project-based learning and create opportunities for every student to participate? And as we launch the hub, we want to hear from you. As hard as it's been to navigate the uncertainties of a pandemic, how would you capitalize on the opportunity we have as an educational community to impact our systems and structures? If you head back to your browser tab or mobile device that has started the Mentimeter presentation, take a moment to complete that question for yourself. What if we? You don't need to include your name, just your courageous thinking. We'll switch our screen back to Mentimeter here so you all can see what we all have to say. It's really incredible to see some of the thoughts scrolling on the screen. We'll give another 30 seconds or so for folks to get some responses up here. What if we? I can't help but nod at so many of these. What if we? Some courageous thinking, and it's inspiring to think about what we're facing right now. Again, as hard as it's been. This Mentimeter will stay up even while we head back to our presentation, but we just want to continue to encourage you to keep this "what if we" question at the ready as we go through the rest of our presentation today. I'm going to hand it back to Jamie.
Great, thank you, Andy. So a lot of you touched on this, and Andy had mentioned it, but the COVID-19 pandemic has underscored the tremendous inequities and various levels of access of learning across Oregon and the nation. And while this event has created significant disequilibrium in our education systems, we now have a responsibility and opportunity to rethink and rebuild our collective approach to instructional materials and educational resources. The Oregon Open Learning Hub and Open Education Resources can provide a platform for us to redistribute the power structures that have historically driven the development of educational materials and provide educators agency by broadening access to authorship, an inclusive voice, and design resources that are fully representative of our Oregon students. Now I'll hand it over to Vanessa.
In addition to equity, open licensing empowers educators by inviting the adaptation of resources in collaboration with others. Educators are empowered to make changes to the materials to improve upon them, whether that's to provide local context to a resource, to add scaffolding to better support students' needs, or even to add graphics or other creative works. This empowerment also means that educators are free to and encouraged to share the revisions they've made with other educators who can benefit from their work both locally and across the state. This promotes collaboration among educators and supports the development of educators' professional craft.
An investment in OER means that we are making an investment in building the capacity of the people in our education community and developing a sense of efficacy. When we support the creation of high-quality resources by and for Oregon educators, all students can benefit from the collective expertise of dedicated educators who are learning from each other, working collaboratively, and sharing their best ideas. As a result, we elevate the teaching profession and improve our ability to meet the needs of all learners by providing access to resources that are relevant, up-to-date, and openly shareable.
To illustrate the potential of open educational resources, let's consider the journey of an open resource across Oregon. And as we follow the action, pay attention to the number of educators and students reached, as well as the number of revisions made to the original resource. Each iteration improves the quality and accessibility of the resource. Here we go. So it all starts with the middle school educator, science educator in Grants Pass, who contributes one of her distance learning activities to the science group in the Oregon Open Learning Hub. This educator serves 125 students.
From there, a dual language educator in Hillsborough finds the resource, translates it into Spanish for his students. The remixed resource is shared back to the science group for a second iteration of this resource, reaching 2 educators now and 170 students.
And as it happens, an educator in Hermiston is looking for science activities in Spanish and finds the remix on Oregon Open Learning. He shares it with his PLC, and they add a social emotional learning component to the opening of the lesson. This third revision has been used by 5 educators and reached over 320 students.
From there, this Hermiston team has connected with the team of educators from Redmond through the Oregon Science Project. They send a link to the resource, which is used throughout one of the middle schools. Even though it wasn't revised or remixed, it was widely used in the region, reaching 8 educators and serving 500 students.
Now, the same dual language educator in Hillsborough connected with a group of educators working with the Portland Metro STEM Partnership, and they decided to add a math component to the activity to help it serve even more students. The new resource gets added back to the hub in both the science and math groups. Afterward, they shared the resource through their region, and a few educators decided to use it. This single revision nearly doubled the number of educators reached and nearly tripled the number of students served.
Meanwhile, Lane ESD and Eugene 4J are collaborating on interdisciplinary units. They find this STEM resource fits right into one of their project-based learning units. This resource is remixed and added to the project-based learning group on the Oregon Open Learning Hub. Now, several in Lane County are using the full unit. Now it's another iteration ready to be used, reaching 28 educators and serving over 2,000 students.
Meanwhile, the Special Education Program Administrator at South Coast ESD promotes the hub throughout her region, and a middle school educator in Central Curry School District finds the resource and adds some differentiation for one of his students experiencing disability. This remix is shared back with the hub. You get the idea. In all, nearly 40 educators used the initial activity, and it reached over 3,000 students. The quality of the resource improved each time as well, as each educator or team added more components based on their students' needs. It's also worth noting that there were 0 copyright violations involved because each of the resources was openly licensed. And perhaps the best news, there was literally no cost to use this resource other than maybe a few copies.
So at this point, you may be wondering, what exactly is an OER? Open Educational Resources, or OER, are teaching, learning, and research resources that reside in the public domain or that have been released under an intellectual property license that permits their free use and repurposing by others. The 5 R's of OER allow for the retention, reuse, revision, remixing, and redistribution of those materials without breaking copyright law or jeopardizing intellectual property. Open educational resources include full courses, course materials, modules, textbooks, lessons, videos, assessments, and any other tools, materials, or techniques used to support access to knowledge. The image on this slide represents the process that a young student named Austin went through in creating a drawing of a butterfly. Some of you have probably seen this before. This illustrates the idea that developing and curating OER invites educators to not only share resources, but also to revise and remix them as part of an ongoing iterative process. I'm going to hand it over now to Vanessa, and she's going to give us a tour.
Yeah, so let's take a tour of the Oregon Open Learning Hub on the OER Commons platform. Here we are on the OER Commons. That stands for Open Educational Resource Commons. OER Commons is a digital public library and collaboration platform hosting over 50,000 resources. The site hosts resources for several states' K-12 OER initiatives and OER textbooks for colleges and universities. You can search the global library from the homepage using this search menu. Now let's find the Oregon Open Learning Hub. You would use the Hubs menu at the top of the page and then select See All Hubs. The hubs are listed in alphabetical order. You can scroll down until you find Oregon Open Learning. You can also use our URL to go directly to the hub, oercommons.org/hubs/Oregon. This is the Oregon Open Learning Hub. You can search the content within Oregon's hub using the search bar here. There's also a menu that allows you to jump to specific sections of the site. As you scroll down the page, you'll see our About section, which gives a little more information about the site and the email address that you can use to ask any questions about using the hub or participating on the hub. We'll have this email address displayed again at the end of our presentation. Next, you'll see the Curricular Resources section. This section hosts collections from nationally known content providers. We know that these content providers produce high-quality resources that educators can start using right away. You can click into one of the collections to find resources. The filters on this side of the page will help you find the specific content that you're looking for. Let's say a middle school lesson. Once you find a lesson that looks interesting or a resource that looks interesting, you can click that resource's title to find the resource description page and learn more.
Excuse me, Vanessa. I see that there's a sign-in and registration button at the top of the screen. Does that mean you need to be logged in to find an educational resource and use the Oregon Open Learning site?
Actually, no, you don't. Thanks for pointing that out, Jamie. Right now, I'm not signed in, and nothing that I've showed you so far requires that you be signed in. I'll go ahead and sign into my account. There are some advantages to having an account, especially if you want to contribute. You would use this same button to register and create an account if you don't already have one. Then, when you are logged in, you'll see a little circular button up here where you can access your profile to add a photo and some information about yourself. There's one more section of the site that we should take a look at. That's the group section. In our group section, you'll see that we have two tabs, Oregon Teaching and Learning and Education Partners and Practices. Within these two tabs, you'll find a variety of groups to support a variety of teaching and learning needs. You can join any of the groups by clicking the group icon. And actually, by the way, you don't have to join the group to access the resources, but if you do join the group, it provides a little more participation opportunities. Once you've clicked the icon, you just click the Screen Join Group button. This might be a good time to let you do a little bit of exploration.
So for those of you who are missing your sporting events right now, we have an opportunity for you to fulfill some of that competitiveness. We'll take the next 3 minutes for you to go on an exploration to find the following 3 items on the Oregon Open Learning Hub. You can reach the Oregon Open Learning Hub by the web address that's located on the screen, or you could Google Oregon Open Learning Hub. So the first person, after you find these 3 items, you can, after you find those 3 items, you can find the raised hand button, and we'll call on the top winner to share 1 item that you found. So the 3 items you are looking for is a resource or a group to support your area of expertise or area of curiosity, a picture of a graduation cap in the Oregon Open Learning Hub, or where you could find additional professional learning opportunities to find out more about the Oregon Open Learning Hub or Oregon or open education resources in general. So when you found those 3 items, go ahead and use the raise hand function. We'll give you a few minutes to do some exploration. So this was one of our fears, is that we would send you off into the Oregon Open Learning Hub and you'd be learning so much that for some of you, oh, we do have a hand raised. Thank you. So I have an opportunity to call on that person. So if you don't mind, I will unmute you. Let's see. So we do have a winner. It's the inner competitiveness in me that put this together. So thank you all for playing along. Marcy, it looks like I am going to unmute you, and if you don't mind, just share 1 thing that you found on the Oregon Open Learning Hub. Let's see if we can get you to, let's see, click to unmute. I'm working on that. There we go. Marcy, if you're able to, yes, perfect. Tell us 1 thing that you had found on the Oregon Open Learning Hub.
I found a section where I could go to reading connected text. So I could use that right away in my classroom if I wanted to use that, as well as it was easy to find the graduation cap right on the front.
Perfect. We try to give you know, a diverse amount of people's expertise in exploring while you're also on a webinar. So thank you so much for playing along and raising your hand. I appreciate it. Great. So again, thank you all so much for playing along. Hopefully you'll continue to explore the Oregon Open Learning Hub. And as we pointed out, if you have any questions, please direct those to us and we'll be happy to answer them. So now I'll hand it over to Vanessa to continue on our learning journey together.
Thanks for that, Jamie. That was kind of fun to see people exploring. Usually when you're on a webinar and it says that people are not paying attention, that's a bad sign, but in this case, I saw almost everyone's attention divert to somewhere else, so that's pretty awesome. Now that you've all had a chance to look around the hub, I wanted to point out 3 ways that you can get started contributing. Once you create an account and join a group or a few groups, you'll be able to start curating resources by adding content from the global OER Commons site or from other OER sources on the web. You can remix resources. That means changing and adapting them to improve their quality or localize the content. And you can review resources to let others know about the strengths and weaknesses of specific resources. Susan, where can people find more information about contributing?
Well, that is a great question, Vanessa. In our professional learning group on the hub, we have created 2 learning modules that link to short videos and how-to articles. And maybe if when you were on your tour, you might have found that group, and perhaps a few people check that out. Now I've forgotten what I was saying. The first module contains resources that will help you to solidify your understanding of OER basics. And the second module, Curating in a Group, contains resources that will prepare you to contribute to a group on the hub. For those of you who have questions or would like individualized support as you are getting familiar with the hub, we welcome you to drop in during our Oregon Open Learning office hours, which will be held starting next week. We'll also be hosting a second learning event with 2 time options for you, 10 a.m. on June 16th and 2:30 p.m. on June 17th. There will be more information and a registration link included in our follow-up email. And then throughout the summer, ODE staff will be facilitating OER hackathons, during which Oregon educators will come together to collectively populate resources on our hub. And we will be offering PDUs for those events. Then I think I'm passing it over to Andy.
And it helps to unmute myself. You'd think I'd be used to that by now. Are you as excited about this as we are? This Oregon Open Learning Hub holds so much potential, and we just couldn't wait until fall to introduce it to you. A few questions have come in during the webinar, and we'll get to those in just a minute. Before we do, we want to give you one more opportunity to share your thinking. So back on your mobile device or browser tab, you should see a link at the bottom of the Mentimeter screen that says exit and enter a new presentation. If that's not there, or if you closed it, you can simply go to menti.com and enter the code at the top of the screen, 457243. And we've designed the hub in such a way that every Oregon educator should see themselves represented somewhere. But we want to hear how you see yourself engaging with the hub. So what are your next steps? What are you most excited about? Please take a minute to respond, and we'll watch some responses scroll by. Oh, see, Jamie, you've got people excited about doing more exploring. Seeing lots of exploring, a couple, I can't wait to share this with staff members. That's fantastic. A couple of responses are highlighting the collaborative potential. Well, again, the email on the screen is a great way to follow up with questions as you come up with them and as you explore the hub. We can't thank you enough for joining us this morning, especially amidst the end of a school year that has been quite different. So thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your week and the rest of your school year. We hope to see you in June for office hours and our next learning event. Take care, everyone.